Tonight, two major public sector unions will ballot for strike action. Unions representing teachers and some hospital doctors both say the Scottish Government has reneged on promises. The First Minister says a doctor's strike will help absolutely nobody. Also tonight, a man accused of murder is alleged to have dumped dismembered body parts in Glasgow and Loch Lomond. Ash Regan, who defected from the SNP to the ALPA party 2 years ago, now quits ALPA.
Coming up in tonight's sport, after a remarkable night at Hampden, Steve Clarke's Scotland side move a big step closer to World Cup qualification with a must-win game against Belarus up next on Sunday.
And we're in Peterhead to see how they're trying to find opportunities to keep young people in the town.
When I was younger, there was temptation to move down to the Central Belt for work, but I like Peterhead, I like the area, I like the people.
I'm Laura Goodwin and this is Reporting Scotland. Two key groups of public sector workers are threatening strike action, accusing the Scottish Government of reneging on promises. Junior doctors in Scotland are to vote on striking over pay, and the biggest teachers' union is preparing to ballot members on striking over their workload. Their warnings of possible action come on the eve of the SNP conference. Well, let's speak to our news correspondent, Jamie McIver. Jamie, both these disputes have common themes. Let's talk about junior doctors first. Is this simply a pay dispute?
It is a pay dispute, but their union, the BMA, is also angry with the Scottish Government. Now, the Scottish Government is very proud that strikes in the health service in Scotland in recent years have been avoided, while services have been disrupted south of the border. Action by resident doctors here was narrowly avoided 2 years ago after a pay deal. Now the BMA claims that Scottish ministers have, as they put it, shamefully reneged on that deal. The union says the proposed uplift this year would have been the lowest in the UK and less than the amount recommended by the independent peer review body. Details of their strike ballot will be set out later.
We're very disappointed that it looks like the Scottish Government are intent on breaking the deal that they signed with resident doctors back in 2023. That deal has been the only thing that's prevented resident doctors from going on strike in NHS Scotland. And it's a real shame that we've not been able to continue that constructive negotiation, and the Scottish Government appear to be turning their backs on what had been beneficial for both doctors, patients and the NHS more widely.
Now, the Scottish Government says that junior doctors here had been offered 4.25% for the current year and 3.75% for next year. Now, the Scottish Government says that's the same offer that nurses and other NHS staff chose to accept, and in the Government's words, shows the value which it places on the role that resident doctors play in hospitals and clinics.
And Jamie, the biggest teachers' union is also threatening a strike over what it sees as broken promises.
Yes, broken promises in the view of the EIS. It will be setting out details of its strike ballot in the next few weeks too. Only this row is not about pay, it's about workload. The EIS claims that basically teacher workload is too great. Now, the union is well aware of just how powerful a weapon even the threat of a strike can be in the run-up to an election. It's only 2.5 years since the last widespread strike action by teachers across Scotland, and the union knows that the government is likely to want to highlight education as an issue during the election campaign. Now, the points that the union would be making in this dispute are that teacher workload is simply too great. Things like the amount of time they have to prepare lessons, do marking, bureaucratic tasks, and also deal with young people who require additional support.
Well, teachers are working extremely long hours. Our independent research has shown on average over 11 hours per week. And there just come a time when they said, stop, and we need to take action on this. And there is a manifesto published by the SNP that on which they were elected. And that manifesto set out a promise, a pledge to reduce workload. And teachers want to keep the Scottish Government to that pledge.
And I've got a statement here from the Scottish Government. It says it's disappointed the EIS is planning to ballot while what it calls constructive talks on cutting class contact time are going on. Now, it should be stressed that there is no inevitability of strikes here. Any action is several weeks away. Ballots have to be held first, and both unions will certainly hope that strikes can be avoided and that the threat may prove enough.
OK, Jamie, thank you. Well, the pressure from the unions comes as the SNP conference begins in Aberdeen this weekend. Our political editor, Glenn Campbell, is there for us. Glenn, is this likely to cast a shadow over the conference?
Well, evening from the exhibition hall at the SNP's conference in Aberdeen. Before things get underway tomorrow, certainly this is not an ideal curtain raiser for John Swinney and his party, because SNP ministers pride themselves on trying to avoid strike action. You've heard that when it comes to the EIS and the teachers, the Scottish Government is expressing disappointment. When it comes to the British Medical Association and the doctors they represent, I put the threat of strike action directly to John Swinney when I interviewed him earlier.
We've made an offer that's consistent with the discussions that we've had with the British Medical Association. We'll continue to discuss with them. I obviously want to avoid industrial action if I possibly can do. It'll help absolutely nobody, but we've got to live within the resources that we have available to us.
And Glenn, you had a wide-ranging conversation with the First Minister this afternoon, but pressures on the NHS very much the focal point.
Yes, and I raised directly with him the case of an 8-year-old girl who needs surgery for a serious condition affecting her bladder and her kidneys. At first, it seemed that her operation was being put back by 18 months. In fact, she was put forward for surgery, put on the waiting list in September last year, and is now being told that her operation is not likely to happen before April next year. So that could be a wait of 19 months. Here's what the First Minister had to say on that.
Well, I don't obviously know the circumstances of that individual case, and that there may be a whole range of different issues that might affect that particular treatment. But the point I would make is that we are doing everything we can to make sure that patients are treated as quickly as is possible within the National Health Service.
Well, that wee girl's mum tells us that this delay is causing immense suffering and risks further health complications for her daughter. Can you imagine what that's like?
Of course, I totally accept the worry and the anxiety. There's probably no greater thing in life than parental worry and anxiety about your children. Any of us who are parents have that experience. I completely understand that. But
what can you do to help in the case of somebody who's had their operation put back?
I'd be very happy to look at that particular case and to establish exactly what's happened. And if there's a way in which that can be accelerated, if you share the information with me, I'll look into that to make sure that can be undertaken, because I understand that worry. But at a general level, what I would say is that my focus is on improving waiting times. We're seeing waiting times falling, and we're seeing more people being treated in our National Health Service.
And that's the way. 1 in 9 people in Scotland waiting for something, and some of them are waiting for multiple procedures.
And that is because of the implications of essentially pausing our National Health Service for 2 years during the pandemic.
Yeah, but you were the COVID Recovery Secretary. You're now even more powerful as First Minister. And I suppose the broader question that people would want answered is, why are things not getting better faster?
Well, what we're doing is that we're taking steps which are now reducing waiting times. So that's what we're doing, and we're seeing that happening in the data that is emerging. We've put extra money in to enable there to be more procedures undertaken in the National Health Service. What I would reassure members of the public about is that we're taking all the steps that we can within the resources available to us to make sure that performance matches the expectations of the public in recovering from COVID.
And we've since been in touch with the family highlighted there, and they are going to take up the First Minister's offer to look into their case. Now, new allegations have emerged in the case of a Glasgow man whose remains were recovered from Loch Lomond last month. Court papers claim 38-year-old Graham Wright was murdered at a property in the city's Gorbals area and then dismembered, with his body parts dumped both in the Loch and in Castlemilk in the south of Glasgow. 50-year-old David McCall is accused of Mr Wright's murder and is due to appear in court again next week. Hope Webb reports.
Graham Wright was 38 and lived in the south side of Glasgow, but almost 2 months ago he was reported missing. Then in the middle of last month, part of his remains were found in Loch Lomond at the Ruadú near Firkin Point, prompting a large police search of the area. Now a 50-year-old man, David McCall, has appeared in court charged with murder and disposing of a body. Mr McCall is accused at some point between August and September of killing Mr Wright at a property in the Gorbals. He's then alleged to have dismembered the body. Mr McCall is also accused of disposing of Mr Wright's remains in secret in a wooded area in the city's Castlemilk, as well as Loch Lomond. Mr McCall appeared in private here at Glasgow Sheriff Court earlier this week, charged in connection with the death of Mr Wright. He faces a second charge of attempting to defeat the ends of justice, as well as 2 further charges of breaching bail. He made no plea and will appear again within the next 8 days. Another man, 53-year-old John Roherty, appeared in court accused of defeating the ends of justice in connection with this case. In recent weeks, police have carried out extensive searches in several locations in and around Castlemilk, including at the Jenny Burns Centre. And today, officers were still there, scouring the site. This marks the 3rd week of their investigations in that area. Inquiries have also been taking place at a former golf course near Cathkin Braes Country Park. Police say they're still treating Mr Wright's death as unexplained and that inquiries are ongoing. Hope Webb, reporting Scotland.
Some of the day's other stories now. 2 teenagers are to stand trial charged with the murder of a 15-year-old boy in Glasgow. The pair, aged 16 and 15, are accused of attacking Eamon Teckley in St George's Cross in March this year. Prosecutors claim the boys, who can't be named because of their age, attacked him with a sword. Eamon, who was originally from Eritrea, lived with his father in Glasgow and had been granted right to remain status in the UK shortly before he died. A woman allegedly murdered by her boyfriend said she loved him before adding, "You're going to kill me," a court has heard. Claire Levesque made the remarks in a recording of a conversation she had with her partner Aaron Pearson sometime before her death. Mr Pearson denies murdering Miss Levesque in a hot tub at his mother's home in Shetland in February last year. Scotland's first black professor has been celebrated at a memorial service in Edinburgh. Sir Geoff Palmer was the Chancellor and Professor Emeritus of Heriot-Watt University and also a human rights advocate who arrived in the UK from Jamaica as a teenager in 1955. He died in June, aged 85. His family joined friends, colleagues and members of the public at St Giles Cathedral this morning to remember his life and legacy.
Sir Geoff was an amazing, trailblazing individual in Scotland. To go from a Windrush boy to a Knight of the Thistle is some journey, but in between times a very distinguished academic, a pioneer in the field of brewing, and an outstanding academic as well. That's quite a story. And the Royal National Mod, Scotland's premier Gaelic festival, gets underway today in Lochaber. The annual week-long festival, the world's largest Gaelic event, celebrates the linguistic and cultural heritage of the language. Dozens of competitors, individuals and choirs of all ages will compete across a number of disciplines, including Gaelic music and song. MSP Ash Regan says she is resigning from the ALPA party to focus on efforts to criminalise paying for sexual services. She joined ALPA 2 years ago after defecting from the SNP. Well, our political correspondent Andrew Kerr is with us now. Andrew, will this be seen as a significant loss for ALPA?
Well, Laura, I think that could be a debatable point. She was ALPA's first ever MSP, sitting there in Parliament, being part of the national conversation. And important, of course, as we head to the Holyrood election next year. They now no longer have that. She says she and ALPA have chosen different paths. Now, the party has openly questioned her commitment, so some may see her in the party as no loss. She did have a bit of a profile though. She was a minister in the SNP government and ran to be SNP leader back in 2023.
So what exactly have ALPA been saying and what will Ms Regan do now?
Yes, well, ALPA say her decision was not unexpected. They say she'd not sought to stand for the party at the election next year. And they say that she'd not taken an active role in the party since the leadership election earlier this year. Now, that makes clear the rift that has taken place between her and Kenny McCaskill. He beat her to that post. And there's a bit of upset that, of course, this comes as we approach the first anniversary of Alex Salmond's death this weekend. But for Ash Regan herself, she says she will stand as an independent next year and she will continue to sit as an independent for now. But at the moment, she wants to focus on getting her bill through Parliament.
OK, Andrew, thank you. In coming decades, towns like Peterhead in the northeast of Scotland, built on fishing and oil, will be facing up to the challenges and opportunities of new industries. The question for the town will be, how does it hold on to new generations of residents and workers in things like renewables and carbon capture? Some businesses in Peterhead are actively adapting to attract young local workers. Ian Hamilton has been finding out more for his series, My Kind of Town, and has this report.
Right, we're off.
Is it tide turning in Peterhead?
I grew up going to St Price Primary. I went to Peterhead Academy.
Right.
And I've been sailing since I was about 5 years old.
Young people at Marin love taking to the water in Peterhead. She says she's keen to stay, if the opportunities exist.
When I was younger, there was temptation to move down to the Central Belt for work, but I like Peterhead, I like the area, I like the people.
Right. So what's the employment opportunities like then in the town?
It's actually pretty good. I'm on placement just now as an architecture student and I'm getting to design Peterhead Academy.
Well, that's exciting. Renewables and carbon capture could be the big employers of the future. And for people like Isla, they're already getting a taster in school.
Last year I was part of the Girls in Energy, so I got an AT5 qualification out of that. We learn about energy and renewable energy and offshore energy and how it relates to Peterhead and stuff.
Is it something you might like to go into?
Yeah, maybe.
Not only is Peterhead home to Europe's largest white fish market, it also has some of the world's biggest maritime engineering firms.
We've managed to transfer from the fishing industry into the oil, and we're doing exactly the same into the renewables.
One of them, MDL, have just announced a massive £12 million investment in the town.
Peterhead is absolutely ready for it, and thus the reason for our investment into the new facility. I've seen a lot of changes over the years in the resilience of the town for moving from industry to industry or sector to sector.
A new wave of workers is being trained. It's up to towns like Peterhead to capture that opportunity. Ian Hamilton, reporting Scotland, Peterhead.
And you can see more from Ian in Peterhead in My Kind of Town. That's available to watch on the BBC iPlayer now. Right, let's get tonight's sport with Lewis. What a night we had last night. Terrible first half.
Unbelievable. Yeah, and then that.
I was just about to switch over and then it all changed.
It's terrible in our line of work, Laura, that I'm struggling to find the words.
What words are you going to use?
To say. Exactly. Amazing.
What we really want to know is what snack did they have at half time that gave them that extra
That's the
bit of
report
boost.
we have to get to the bottom of.
Yep.
We'll do
right,
our best.
you're on it.
Thanks, Laura. Thanks, guys. Hello there. Well, Steve Clarke believes that the Scottish public should love their national team after Scotland's remarkable 3-1 never-say-die win over Greece. But the head coach admits that they need to follow that up with 3 points against Belarus on Sunday. Sheila McLaren looks back on a dramatic night at Hampden Park, which takes Scotland a step closer to their dream of reaching next year's World Cup.
The smiles that said it all. Elation, relief, and perhaps a touch of bewilderment. After a scarcely believable night at the National Stadium, all that matters to Scotland is the result.
We've obviously got a lot of things to work on, it's clear. But what would us as a team and the whole country rather absolutely batter Greece off the park and come away with a draw or a defeat. Tonight we had to win in a different way. We dug deep. What we had was resolve, character, and boys off the bench coming on offering something different, and we managed to get the 3 points no matter what way it came. We are delighted with it, and on to Sunday now.
For more than an hour, Greece were on top, and the atmosphere...
The attitude of this group, the Scottish public should love to have them, because they never know when they're beat. They want to be remembered as a really successful group.
Unbelievable. They were just so bad, and then out of nothing they just got a tremendous result, so absolutely fantastic.
So once they got their goal, that was it just changed. And then the supporters keep them going, the Tartan Army, could hear them, so that gave them a boost.
Frustrating in the first half, but exciting then, so yeah, it was really good to see for a change a Scotland game. Yeah. Got an opportunity now to at least finish second, so let's see if we can build on it.
Scotland have had their fair share of hard luck stories. On a night where they rode theirs, showed character and came out on top, are the World Cup finals, now within their grasp. Sheila McLaren, reporting Scotland.
Some people even having a wee ice cream to celebrate this one. Now let's take a look at this though, because Denmark thrashed Belarus 6-0 in last night's other game to leave the Group C table looking like this at the halfway stage. Scotland, with 2 wins and a draw, are level on points with the Danes at the top, and Greece are now 4 points behind. Next up for Scotland is Belarus on Sunday, a match that you can watch live on BBC Scotland while Denmark host Greece in Copenhagen before what could be a huge final round of fixtures that sees Scotland travel to Athens, then face the Danes at Hampden. But before those games, what sort of position could Scotland find themselves in come Sunday night?
When we're looking at the permutations, we have to assume that everyone's going to beat Belarus home and away, because they haven't been up to much so far this campaign. So assuming that Scotland are one of those teams that beats Belarus home and away on Sunday night, ideally, and this is coming from the slant that we want to win the group and we want to qualify automatically, we want Denmark and Greece to play out a draw, because then that means that all Scotland have to do is win their 2 home matches and they'll win the group. The match in Greece doesn't matter to Scotland. If we can win our 2 home games, we will win the group if Denmark and Greece draw on Sunday evening.
Huge indeed. Now to rugby, and Gregor Townsend says his new advisory role at Red Bull will make him a better coach for Scotland. Townsend, who was speaking to BBC Scotland's chief sports writer Tom English, will spend 30 days a year working on the company's global rugby strategy. He believes many of those criticising the new role probably want him out of the Scotland job.
Well, I would like to think if it's beneficial for me and I'm the national head coach, then that's going to be spread to those around me, the players, the team. And these might just be specific things along, this is how they've set up a facility in football and we can be more efficient there. I'm expecting to spend some time at Formula One, meet Jurgen Klopp, people like that I can only see as a positive. I mean, it might not always be specific learning that you bring across. So that's really where my focus will be in my role. It's how can I help the national team.
And you can read that full interview on the BBC Sport website, Laura. And there's plenty more Scotland stuff there, because there's never enough.
We'll bask in that moment. Thank you very much, Lewis. Are we going to be basking in sunshine, Joy?
Well, some of us might be for a wee bit, but definitely not everybody. Good evening, everybody. So, we've got high pressure in charge, giving plenty of dry and settled conditions, and quite a contrast to be seen throughout today. In more eastern spots, plenty of sunshine and dry settled conditions in the west, and in more northern spots, as we can see though, cloud has been moving in thick enough to produce light rain and drizzle at times. This evening and overnight, little change. We have clear skies in the east being replaced by thickening cloud, sweeping its way eastwards again, some light rain and drizzle, and then pushing in from the northwest. We have this more persistent showery rain moving into the northwest Highlands and the Western Isles by morning. Under the clearest skies in Aberdeenshire, potentially feeling on the chilly side, but elsewhere another mild night, and particularly in more northern spots we will see these strong winds easing. Tomorrow morning, therefore, for the central and southern spots, we'll see some dry, bright conditions. Elsewhere, rather cloudy, that cloud working its way eastwards. And if we take a look at in more detail, at around about 4 o'clock, especially for Shetland, much less blustery. It will still be overcast, but feeling more pleasant. That rain lingering across Orkney in the far north, and it is again the northeast, parts of Dumfries and Galloway and the borders that we're seeing the best of the sunshine. Elsewhere, rather cloudy. Winds easing, however, so actually feeling a wee bit more pleasant. Highs of 15 or 16 Celsius at best. And as we move through the evening, we'll see cloud again sweeping its way eastwards. Some light rain and drizzle in more northern spots and clearer skies in the south. Now, high pressure staying in charge on Sunday, and that does mean that yet again it's going to be a settled start. We could see some early mist and fog patches, quite a cloudy start. They should lift, and as the days progresses, much more in the way of bright, fine sunshine developing, particularly across the mainland. Elsewhere, staying on the cloudy side. Winds beginning to ease, and that means it is going to feel a touch warmer once more. Highs at best of 16 or 17 Celsius. Let's look at next week. High pressure staying in charge for much of the week, so we have further dry, settled conditions. Little change to come. Dry start on Monday, plenty of cloud as we can see, lingering mist and fog slowly lifting as the day progresses, much more in the way of sunshine developing, especially towards evening. Winds falling light, beginning to swing from much of the country a bit more easterly, and that will lift temperatures a touch. Little change too as we move into Tuesday. Is another cloudy start, a dry one, perhaps more in the way of limited brightness breaking through, but there will be some sunshine, especially in more northeastern spots. And as we can see, highs again 15 or 16 Celsius with light winds. Now, if you're staying in Lochaber for much of the week for the Royal National Mode, you will be pleased to hear that it will be dry, it will be settled, there will be some sunshine, and winds will also be light. That's your forecast.
Not too bad at all. And important because October holidays coming up, so people will be out and about. Thank you very much, Joy. Now, tonight's main news again. Unions representing teachers and some hospital doctors will ballot for strike action. A man accused of murder is alleged to have dumped dismembered body parts in Glasgow and Loch Lomond. And Ash Regan, who defected from the SNP to the Alpha Party 2 years ago, now quits Alpha. I'll be here with your late news at around 10:30. Join me and Joy for that. But until then, from everyone on the team, have a great weekend and enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.